If you've been trying to buy a home here in the mountains of Summit County and you keep getting beat out by multiple offer situations, stick around because today we're going to talk about the top 7 tips or strategies to get your offer accepted in a competitive market. Hi everybody, it's Pete Deininger with the Breck Life Group right here in Breckenridge, Colorado. And today I'm counting down my top 7 strategies to get your offer accepted in a competitive market. We all know how challenging it has been if you've been looking to buy a home or condo in Breckenridge or around Summit County. We know how challenging it's been to have your voice heard or your offer heard. Sellers are looking at competing offers. So today I'm going to talk about the top 7 strategies we've been using to get offers accepted for our buyers. Coming in at number 1 on the list, and this ought to be a no-brainer, but I can tell you as a listing agent, it almost never happens, and that is ask the seller what they prefer to see in an offer. If there's a very specific closing date that they have in mind or a certain amount of earnest money that they'd like to see down so that they know the buyer is genuine and committed to the purchase, or perhaps they would like to see a post-closing occupancy agreement. I know that's a confusing phrase, but it means a lease back after the day of closing. It might be they're building a home and the home that they're moving into won't be ready for another 30 days, or they're under contract to purchase their replacement property and that won't be ready to close for another couple of weeks or something. So if there are specific terms that are vitally important to the seller, you can get a leg up over the competition by having your agent simply reach out to the listing agent and ask the seller what's important. This is a really basic strategy that as a listing agent, I almost never have buyer's agents call me in advance to see what my sellers would prefer. So keep that in mind as you're working with your agent. Make sure they're asking the listing agent what's most important to the seller. At number 2 on our list, and again, this is a pretty simple one, but write a clean offer. And what I mean by this is, there's a saying in carpentry, measure twice, cut once. It means review your offer and make sure there are not things missing or neglected or errors that would be confusing to a listing agent and a seller, so that if all the other terms of your offer are the most appealing, but they've got to tidy up mistakes from the contract, the seller and the listing agent may feel that they're not dealing with a talented or qualified buyer or agent. So it's a really simple process to make sure that boxes are not unchecked in the offer. Make a selection on every component that is in the contract to buy and sell. Here in Colorado, it's a pretty simple process to work directly through the contract and make sure that everything is completed and the way you would want it to be, so that a listing agent and seller don't have to prepare a counter proposal if they wish to accept your offer. At number 3 on our list, be prepared to submit an offer above list price. And I know this is painful and difficult to consider, but in this market with extremely limited supply and very high buyer demand, we are seeing almost every property sell above list price. So have a conversation with your agent about how you ought to structure your offer and at what price you should submit your offer. There's often the saying, you don't get a second chance to make a good first impression, and so you may not get a call from the seller and listing agent that they're calling for highest and best offers if there are competing offers. So be prepared to put your best foot forward. Submit that best offer the first time. All right, next up, we're going to talk about waiving your inspection contingency. And I know that may sound scary at first, but let me clarify. It does not mean that you're going to waive the right to have an inspection, and you're not going to waive the right to terminate the contract if you find something in the inspection that is a deal breaker for you. If there's a cracked foundation or anything about the property that is really a deal breaker and you would wish not to accept that expense to fix it, then you certainly have the right to terminate the contract under the inspection termination. What I am suggesting is have the inspection of the property and let the seller know that you're waiving any inspection objection contingency. And that means you're not going to come back to them and say, hey, there's a couple of cracked tiles, or I'd like you to fix the grout, or any minor inconvenience and small expense that would, nickel and dime a seller into thinking that they're not going to receive the proceeds that they thought they were going to have from the sale. And so by doing this, you let the seller know that you are genuine and interested, and this is your preferred property, and you're only going to back out if there is a major structural issue at the home. And we have seen this go a very long way for sellers, giving them the comfort that our buyers are interested in purchasing and they will accept the expense to make minor repairs. Next up on the list is appraisal gap coverage. This can be a great strategy if you're borrowing money, working with a lender to complete a portion of the purchase. So I'm going to do some simple math here for the sake of an example. If you are purchasing a property at $100,000 and you're borrowing 80%, it means that you're borrowing $80,000. And so you would bring $20,000 cash to the table. The lender would fund 80% of that, or $80,000. The way appraisal gap coverage works is, let's say that the appraisal comes back less than the $100,000 purchase price. If the appraisal comes back at $90,000, your lender is only going to lend you 80% of the appraised value, in this instance, $72,000. So you would not only bring the original 20 you had been planning to bring, you would have to make up that additional $8,000 above $72,000 to get to the $100,000. So this only works if you have the ability to bring additional cash to the closing table above the 20% that you're proposing. Or in our market, if you're buying a condotel and you're borrowing 70% and bringing 30% cash to the table, it means that you would have to bring up something, bring to the closing table a little bit more than that 30%. But what this does for a seller is it lets them know that in the event an appraisal comes back a little bit less than contract price, or significantly less than contract price, you're still able to bring the cash to the table. Now, reach out to the agent that you're working with, because we do have some protections built into the clauses that we use, so that if you have a feeling you'd like to not purchase if the appraised value comes in less than a certain amount, we've got protections in there for you. But this has also been a great strategy to give the sellers comfort that our buyers are willing to move forward, even in the event, in this fast-paced market with appreciation, if an appraisal comes back less than contract price, we're still going to move forward. Number 6 on the list, and I understand this is not available for everyone. If you have the ability to pay cash, that is something that every seller loves to see, because it removes two important considerations from the equation. Number one, lenders, as much as we love lenders and underwriters have very specific conditions which must be satisfied in order to complete the lending process. And so if you happen to be buying in a condo and there's more than a certain amount of commercial space in that building, think something ski in, ski out, where they've got retail spaces on the ground floor, ski rentals and things like that, the lender may have a little bit of heartburn about the amount of commercial space, and you may not get the loan that you were hoping for. So that removes one concern for the seller, that the lender may have concerns about lending on this particular property. And number two, of course, most of our cash buyers do not choose to make to have an appraisal, and therefore it removes the appraisal contingency. The seller knows they're not going to have to deal with a potential low appraisal. And coming in with the last strategy, this has been something that has been extremely helpful for our buyers in getting their offer accepted. But of course, this is something that you've got to be certain, absolutely certain, that this is the property for you, and this is non-refundable earnest money. So before you get nervous, it doesn't mean that the moment you submit your earnest money, it's lost to you in the event that you back out. The way we do this is we use a different clause in the contract that says, after you've had the ability to review due diligence documents, look at homeowner association documents, look at the title commitment, and then had your home inspection. And again, if you're waiving the inspection objection contingency, it's when you get past your inspection termination deadline, we have a clause that says the earnest money goes hard or becomes non-refundable. So in that instance, what it means is, should you back out after that deadline, that earnest money would be non-refundable to you. This gives the seller confidence that you're moving forward. It is your intent to complete the purchase, even though you have additional steps in the process to get through. So it's been something that our buyers have had great success in really gaining traction in the minds of the sellers. So something that, should you have the stomach for it, getting past your original couple of contingencies and having your earnest money go hard ensures for the seller that should you walk away, there's some cash available to them for the trouble of going under contract. So that wraps up my top 7 strategies to get your offer accepted in a really competitive market here in Summit County. If you have additional questions and you'd like to speak with us about it, you've got our phone number. Send us an email, reach out, and we can strategize with you how best to get your offer accepted in these competitive, challenging times. Thank you.